Is Prince Harry really rescuing wounded warriors or orchestrating a royal-level publicity ambush? Behind a single Invictus Games invitation lies a chess match of diaries, protocols, and emotional grenades that could either mend a fractured crown or blow the last bridge to Buckingham. Stay tuned, because the difference between redemption arc and tragic freefall may hinge on this one calculated move. The invitation gambit, olive branch or media trap? It started with a leak, not a letter. Sources close to the Sussexes whispered that Prince Harry planned to invite King Charles and Prince William to next year's Invictus Games in Düsseldorf. On the surface, it sounded noble, a soldier prince welcoming his father and brother to celebrate wounded veterans. Yet almost as quickly, royal commentator Lady Colin Campbell threw cold water on the feel-good headline. She claimed the invite was never about family, but about optics, a public dare that would paint the monarchy as icy if they declined. For anyone fluent in palace protocol, the plan bordered on absurd. Senior royals lock their diaries months, sometimes years, in advance. Appearances are calibrated down to the minute, coordinated across households, and vetted for political landmines. You don't drop a last-minute, "Are you free next September?" text to the reigning monarch, let alone leak that text to the tabloids. Worse, Harry's camp hinted he'd invite both Charles and William, an etiquette misstep, because you never call in a higher-ranking royal after a lower one. The order matters, the timing matters, and publicizing the offer before it's even made breaches the first commandment of Windsor diplomacy. Keep negotiations private. Protect the crown's face. That exposure is precisely the point, says Lady C. By broadcasting the invitation, Harry sets a trap with 2 exits and 1 outcome. If Charles and William accept, cameras capture the fragile reunion and the Sussex brand scores priceless footage of royal proximity. If they decline, headlines scream, "Ailing king snubs veteran heroes," and sympathy tilts toward Harry. Either way, the Sussex narrative moves forward. The palace can only lose. Critics call it strategic manipulation disguised as reconciliation, a pattern since the couple stepped away in 2020. Supporters argue it's a rightful son reaching out to his family. The truth, like most royal sagas, probably lives in the gray. What's clear is that this single invitation isn't just about cheering athletes from war zones. It's about reclaiming relevance, monetizing access, and forcing a centuries-old institution to play a modern PR game it despises. But Invictus isn't the first time Harry has steered an event onto a collision course with royal schedules, and it likely won't be the last. Because when brand equity rides on headline volume, timing becomes a weapon. Up next, the pattern of calendar clashes that turned olive branches into open fire. Pattern of collision courses. Headlines over harmony. Invictus isn't Harry's first calendar grenade. It's merely the latest. 2 years ago, while the palace choreographed the late Queen's Platinum Jubilee into a flawless 4-day crescendo, Netflix cameras tracked the Sussexes' every stride through St. Paul's, turning a solemn national celebration into streaming gold. Buckingham courtiers spent weeks corralling lenses to keep focus on the Queen. Harry and Meghan's team needed only seconds of footage to tease a trailer. Eyeballs shifted, algorithms lit up, and the Jubilee's polished pageantry had to share top billing with a will they won't they Sussex cameo. Rewind further and the pattern sharpens. Remember the Oprah sit-down scheduled just days before Prince Philip's funeral? The palace pleaded for a delay. The Sussex camp stayed the course. Result? A grieving family walked behind a casket while the world dissected racism allegations in real time. Even Harry's memoir, Spare, hit shelves the very week William rolled out his Earthshot finalists. Environmental innovators drowned out by tales of frost-nipped anatomy and flying dog bowls. Each collision earned the Sussexes megawatt coverage. Each left the royals scrambling to reclaim the narrative. Friends insist the timing is coincidence, a byproduct of life on separate continents. Critics call it tactical. Pick a moment when the crown can't clap back, then drop a bomb that guarantees front-page dominance. Whether coincidence or calculation, the effect is identical. Royal milestones blur into Sussex milestones, and the line between service and self-promotion dissolves. Why play chicken with the royal diary so often? Because controversy prints money. Outrage fuels clicks. Clicks drive deals, and every headline that reads "Royal Rift Deepens" keeps the Sussex brand indexed right next to the House of Windsor. When harmony equals invisibility, conflict becomes the commodity. And that commodity matters, because once you've traded tiaras for contracts, relevance isn't a courtesy, it's a paycheck. Next up, the business ledger behind every carefully timed detonation, and why brand Sussex can't afford a news cycle without a royal afterglow. The commercial engine. Brand Sussex can't survive on silence. The day Harry and Meghan traded palace keys for production contracts, they swapped a centuries-old stipend for the ruthless math of quarterly earnings. Gone are the set allowances, staffed residences, and built-in photo ops. In their place, streaming metrics, ad share splits, and executives who smile warmly, right up until the audience graph dips. It's a universe where every public gesture must justify its budget line, and relevance is a line item that never stops depreciating. Industry trackers estimate the couple's initial Netflix agreement at somewhere north of $90 million. Headline money, but not a lifetime pension once agents, lawyers, and California taxes take their bite. Spotify inked a reported $20 million podcast deal, yet by 2024, even sympathetic trade papers admitted the partnership didn't meet benchmarks. The parting was dressed up as mutual, but Wall Street read between the lines. Star power alone isn't a product. It needs a constant infusion of narrative heat. That's why Invictus, a self-funded passion project in uniform, suddenly doubles as brand oxygen. Cameras on champions earn goodwill. Cameras on Harry earning goodwill with his family earn headlines, and headlines translate into contract renewals. Put bluntly, the Sussex balance sheet needs periodic royal proximity, the way a smartphone needs a charger. Without it, the battery dies in public view. Executives in Los Angeles know it too. Off-record chatter in trade journals paints a clear equation. Royal access plus authenticity equals premium content. The longer the couple stays off the palace balcony, the more that first variable shrinks, and with it, the premium. That's partly why every Sussex rollout still name-checks the crown, even if only to critique it. Detaching from the family entirely would be principled. It would also be financial suicide. Archewell, their philanthropic umbrella, does admirable work. Veteran mental health, digital hate research. But donors and sponsors inevitably ask, is the CEO still a prince or just a celebrity with a courtesy title? In branding terms, the difference is the distance between global phenomenon and niche activist. Maintaining that liminal space, royal yet rogue, isn't vanity, it's valuation. Which brings us back to the Invictus invitation. By publicly dangling an appearance from both the king and the heir, Harry doesn't simply aim for a family hug. He goose-steps his brand back under royal-adjacent lighting, reminding streamers and publishers that he can still place Windsors in frame. Even a polite refusal can be spun into content. Think pieces, reaction videos, maybe an emotionally scored Netflix episode titled The Invite. Either scenario pushes the Sussex share price a little further from the drop-off. Critics see cold calculation where supporters see entrepreneurial grit. Reality probably lives somewhere in the middle. Two people who genuinely care about their causes, yet also understand that cause-driven content only spreads when draped in something shinier, like a crown, even an estranged one. And until a new, independent hook emerges, the couple's commercial engine will keep running on royal fumes. Top-ups delivered by a carefully timed media spark. But when the fuel tank runs low, some drivers start eyeing unconventional additives. Next up, how blurred-face Instagram reels of Archie and Lilibet became the newest octane booster, and why many viewers now scroll past them without tapping like. Instagram bait and blurred faces. Children as catalysts. The Sussex feed lights up without warning. 30 seconds of coastal sunshine. Archie's giggle just off mic. Lilibet's silhouette chasing bubbles across a manicured lawn. Faces softly pixelated. Captions hinting at family moments. Comment sections instantly ablaze. To casual scrollers, it looks sweet. To seasoned royal watchers, it looks strategic. Rumors suggest the clips drop whenever palace news dominates headlines. Queen Elizabeth's Memorial Week, King Charles's cancer updates, William's Earthshot rollouts. Each time they appear, tabloids splice them beside grim hospital photos or solemn balcony shots, creating a visual tug-of-war between innocence and duty. Reports claim the aim is simple: Prod a grandfather's heartstrings in full public view. Show the world what he's missing. Let sympathy do the rest. It's emotional marketing. 15 million impressions of "Look, Dad," your grandchildren, packaged for maximum shareability. Yet the tactic courts backlash. Commenters now flag the irony. Parents who sued over paparazzi drones are effectively staging their own flyover, trading toddler candor for algorithm reach. The line between privacy and publicity blurs as deliberately as the children's faces. The engagement numbers tell a harsher story. Early reels soared past 5 million views. Recent ones struggle to clear half that. Sympathy fatigue sets in when every tender moment doubles as a protest sign. Even diehard supporters plead, "Just visit him privately. Cameras off." Critics sharpen the point. If reunion were the real goal, commercial platforms wouldn't be the chosen venue, and security-heavy sporting events wouldn't be the proposed meeting spot. Underneath the glossy filters is a quieter gamble. By showcasing the next Sussex generation, Harry signals longevity. Heritage he can leverage even if adult fascination wanes. It reminds studios and publishers that the narrative isn't a one-season arc, but a multi-generational saga. But leveraging children is perilous capital. One mistimed post can flip public sentiment faster than any leaked invitation ever could. And still, the palace says nothing. No rebuttal, no counterreel, not even a statement of "thanks for the footage." The void hangs heavy, amplifying every unanswered question. Because when Windsor walls stay mute, the meaning of those pixelated smiles turns from heartwarming to haunting. Up next, the science and strategy behind that royal silence, and why loving detachment may be the monarchy's loudest reply yet. The Silent Palace, loving detachment in action. While Sussex headlines pinwheel across the Atlantic, Buckingham's response is a study in deliberate quiet. No rebuttals, no sources close to the king, not even the mild palace standby of no comment. To some observers, the hush feels icy until you understand the principle guiding it. Recovery circles call it loving detachment, caring deeply for someone without letting their turbulence pull you under. According to Lady Colin Campbell, King Charles has embraced this stance out of necessity, not malice. The monarch is fighting an aggressive cancer, juggling state papers between treatments. Emotional pile-ons are a luxury he can't afford. Distance, in this context, isn't punishment. It's self-preservation. Prince William's approach mirrors his father's, but carries a colder edge. Friends whisper that anger dried up months ago, replaced by something more final: acceptance. He doesn't plot countermoves or scroll Harry-centric apps. He simply edits the subject out of conversation. In royal terms, that is exile by omission, far harsher than a public scolding, because rehabilitation requires relevance, and relevance evaporates in silence. The strategy is working. Each time a Sussex story soars, the palace stays inert, letting news cycles burn themselves out. Public interest wobbles when only one side supplies quotes, footage, and fresh controversies. Without a sparring partner, drama looks performative. Viewers begin to ask the fatal branding question: if the royals aren't reacting, why should we? That shrug is the crown's most potent weapon, forged across centuries of scandal management. Yet quiet can't cure everything. For Harry, the void amplifies, echoing back unresolved grief, resentment, and a craving for acknowledgement the palace will no longer feed. When a plea for dialogue meets a stone wall of composure, the next move often grows more extreme. Coming up, inside the spiral, how unresolved trauma, admitted substance battles, and a widening echo chamber threaten to turn strategy into self-destruction. Harry's inner spiral: addiction, grief, and the echo chamber. Strip away the gilded headlines, and what remains is a 30-something veteran still wrestling with the ghosts of a boy who walked behind his mother's coffin. In Spare, Harry laid the pain bare, binging vodka till memory blurred, dabbling in psychedelics to feel something, flying Apache sorties that doubled as adrenaline therapy. Those admissions earned sympathy, but they also sketched a fragile psyche now living inside a self-curated echo chamber. Montecito may be sun-kissed, yet the emotional weather inside those walls sounds stormy. Staff paid to agree, consultants paid to mold narratives, advisors paid to chase controversy because calm doesn't trend. Rumors suggest that inner circles shrank after the Spotify exit, leaving only the most agreeable voices. And agreeable voices rarely say the hardest word: stop. Instead, every frustration is validated. Every slight is amplified. Every new idea for public reconciliation is applauded, even when it risks deeper fracture. Psychologists call it confirmation spiraling, when feedback loops get so tight they drown out reality. For someone already candid about using substances to muffle discomfort, that spiral can turn coping into compulsion at frightening speed. Lady C's stark warning, recovery, breakdown, or worse, may sound melodramatic, yet anyone who's loved an addict hears the ring of truth. Cycles don't break themselves. They grind down to depleted bank accounts, lost friendships, and headlines nobody buys anymore. Complicating everything is the monetization of vulnerability. Pain, once shared in therapy, is now product. Memoir pages, podcast confessions, docuseries tears, they all carry price tags. That doesn't automatically cheapen the trauma, but it blurs the boundary between healing and hustling. When every cathartic reveal bumps streaming numbers, the temptation is to keep peeling back scabs long after genuine recovery demands scar tissue. Observers see the pattern. Fresh grievance, bigger audience spike, fresh deal. Over time, the public grows numb. Honesty starts to look like strategy, even when emotion is real. Meanwhile, British tabloids position Harry as antagonist. American late-night hosts position him as punchline. Social media splinters into warring hashtags. Each digital volley lands on his phone, and reports claim he reads plenty of it. That kind of 24-hour scrutiny can liquefy self-esteem if your armor is already dented. In place of palace courtiers enforcing strict phone curfews, there's Wi-Fi everywhere, waiting to feed the loop. What's left is a prince who once thrived on desert camaraderie, now navigating Hollywood's velvet backpatting, where sincerity is optional and buzz is king. The inner compass that guided him through Hellman Province seems foggy in California canyons. He speaks often about service, yet increasingly headlines spotlight strategy, branding, leverage. Friends describe a man oscillating between righteous anger and baffled hurt, never staying long enough in either to chart a stable course. None of this is irreversible. Recovery programs sit minutes from Malibu. Veteran support networks would clear their calendars tomorrow. The monarchy, for all its frosty posture, has privately funded therapy for generations. But every road begins with a decision Harry must make alone. Choose quiet help over public spectacle. Until then, each media maneuver risks becoming another turn of the spiral, spinning faster, sounding louder, selling better, while the exit ramp blurs in the rear view. And that's where Hollywood chemistry meets royal gravity. Because once optics overshadow access, even the slickest PR strategy can't mask an empty tank. Next, we'll see how the glitz of Tinseltown collides with Buckingham's ironclad discretion, and why a story without genuine access eventually hits a box office ceiling. Hollywood versus Buckingham, optics without access. In Hollywood, mythology is merchandised daily. Publicists pitch, camera crews swarm, and a single well-lit walkthrough can reboot a faltering career. Buckingham works on the opposite frequency. Mystique comes from what the public never sees. When Harry and Meghan crossed the Atlantic, they left a world where scarcity equals stature and stepped into one where visibility is oxygen. The collision of those cultures now defines every Sussex headline. Netflix loved the first wave. A royal wedding recap, a mansion confessional, a front row seat to the family feud no one else could film. But you can only sell the same revelation once. Viewership for follow-up projects reportedly slid, and industry insiders whispered the ugliest word in streaming: churn. Spotify's short-lived podcast deal sealed the warning. Big checks arrive on launch day. Renewals arrive only if the audience sticks around. Without fresh corridors inside the palace, the Sussex content cupboard started to look bare. That's where Hollywood's fallback kicks in. Optics. Surprise visits to veteran centers, glossy magazine spreads, keynote speeches framed against philanthropic banners. These appearances please editors, but they can't replicate the gravitational pull of a Buckingham balcony moment. American executives quietly admit it. Royal relevance sells. Activism alone scratches a niche. When every palace door stays politely shut, producers begin to see creative ceilings they didn't budget for. The couple's own messaging hints at the pinch. Invictus promos linger on Harry's army days. Meghan's lifestyle ventures revive pre-royal branding. Both feel earnest, yet both underscore the same truth. Leverage built on royal proximity evaporates without renewals. Hollywood is a town of short memories. Last month's fascination can become next quarter's "remind me why we greenlit this" faster than a red carpet flashbulb. Meanwhile, the palace plays long game. Its silence starves headline demand, letting market forces, not courtiers, shrink the Sussex spotlight. It's the institutional version of judo. Use an opponent's momentum to guide them gently off stage. And as deals wobble, the echo chamber we discussed in Section 6 tightens further. Fewer buyers, fewer dissenting voices, more pressure to manufacture moments that feel royal, even when the royals stay firmly off-screen. Which raises the final, brutal question. What happens when the last card, an Invictus cameo, a blurred face reel, a memoir sequel, no longer moves the needle? Up next, we'll map two stark futures, a quiet path back across the bridge, and a loud sprint toward permanent irrelevance. And why humility, not hype, decides which script gets greenlit. Possible futures, bridge building or burnout. Two roads stretch out from Montecito's Iron Gate, and only one ends in anything that resembles a happily ever after. Scenario A, quiet return, humble repair. Imagine Harry landing in London under the radar. No documentary crew, no press embargo broken, just a father and son behind Kensington's red brick. First comes the handwritten apology no ghostwriter will ever publish. Then the face-to-face admission that memoir wounds cut deeper than intended. Trusted courtiers broker brief, private meetings. No paparazzi shots leak because none exist. Therapy resumes inside palace walls. Joint statements focus on veterans and mental health initiatives. And crucially, Sussex business ventures unhook from royal subject matter. In time, Archie and Lilibet meet their cousins at Balmoral without a single telephoto lens in sight. The public reaction? Relief. The industry reaction? Renewed respect. Without drama as currency, the couple lean into substance. Invictus expansion, serious philanthropy, children's education projects, earning slower but sturdier capital. Humility, not hype, unlocks the drawbridge. The price, a years-long freeze on public grievances and the courage to let relevance shrink before it can grow back organically. Scenario B, permanent rift, headline exhaustion. Now flip the reel. The Düsseldorf invite is declined. Harry responds with another televised truth-telling. A second memoir surfaces, this time naming names. William stays mute, Charles refocuses on recovery and reign. Netflix viewership spikes for the Fallout episode, then plateaus. By 2027, the audience yawns at yet another bombshell reveal. Streaming budgets tighten, brand partners pivot to newer fascinations, and Sussex content is filed under dated drama. Industry shorthand labels them ex-royals, not working royals, and the difference shows on balance sheets. Inside palace walls, nothing changes. Loving detachment hardens into full-time omission. The children grow up strangers to Windsor. Their titles remain styling, not status. Public sympathy sours into apathy, the cruelest verdict in show business. The spiral we traced in Section 6 risks accelerating, because outrage without reward breeds despair. Which road is more likely? That hinges on a single variable, Harry's willingness to trade spectacle for stillness. The palace doors are neither bolted nor propped wide open. They sit on an old oak hinge called humility. Push gently and they'll creak. Pound loudly and they lock. Meghan's media savvy, the children's charm, Hollywood's hunger, all are secondary to one six-letter word, sorry. Uttered sincerely, it buys time and space for every other repair. Withheld, it fuels the very burnout that executives and relatives alike have started to predict in whispers. Because exile and escape are not the same journey. Exile is imposed. Escape is chosen, and the next choice belongs, unequivocally, to the Duke of Sussex. Up next, the closing punch, how this single crossroads could define the monarchy's future narrative and the Sussex legacy in one breath. Is Prince Harry the comeback kid poised to stitch new honor onto an old uniform, or the tragic hero about to watch his last lifeline snap in real time? One handwritten apology could pivot the royal narrative toward quiet reconciliation. One more headline grab could seal a permanent rift and relegate brand Sussex to a cautionary footnote. In the end, humility, not hype, not hashtags, will decide whether this saga becomes Britain's most unlikely redemption arc or its most preventable downfall. Your verdict? Sound off below, and don't forget to subscribe so you catch the moment when choice finally beats choreography.